Kaiser Adolf Hitler, the Hohenzollern, escaped prisoner of war jail in Yugoslavia in 1959. The makeshift prisoner of war jail and working-class posh spinster's apartment on the other side of the bars for the fake engagement to Sadie Einstein, that Kaiser Adolf Hitler, the Hohenzollern, was held prisoner in between December 1943 and late 1959 was run by a man called Joe Reewoldt. It was a converted subway train station that never had the trains diverted through it. They still ran over it near the jail. Joe Reewoldt was an overly loud North American living a lifestyle in Yugoslavia, complete with a twang accent. A Planktown Wild West type, who yelled everything in a slightly panicked-sounding lunatic high-pitched quiet scream on sedatives style. He almost certainly inspired the cartoon character Yosemite Sam. You could bank on it. There is solid evidence that Joe was a former Army general in the United States of America, who was suddenly given a dishonorable discharge after an incident involving Native North Americans that he was heavily involved in. He was never charged or trialed for the illegal acts, including deaths, in the incident. All he got was the discharge in private disgrace. He fled the USA and North America afterwards and settled in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia itself was partly set up by people from the USA as a project bloc nation. Those involved from the USA and what became part of the bloc Yugoslavia knew each other extremely well. Joe Reewoldt types ended up there. Enough said. Joe always seemed hysterical in some way, eventually including due to who and what he saw on the other side of the bars every day he was at work as the jail governor. He knew it was a horrible thing to do to Adolf. He was always just out of fingertip reach from Kaiser Adolf through the bars. Kaiser Adolf began exercising in his cell like a makeshift home gym in 1946. He became way too muscular to be confronted easily. There were a few incidents which caused everything to be moved out of arm's reach through the bars, with nothing he could grab and pull on. Being pulled forward suddenly into prison bars wasn't a pleasant experience. Joe Reewoldt went on an alcohol and drug-fueled killing spree in late 1959 with his hunting pistols. Smith & Wesson 1923 6-shot pistols. One had something like "Eat at Joe's" engraved on it. Joe had gotten quite drunk, was on something chemical, and had a raging screaming argument with his old lady at their house. One of his sons was not at home that day. He had been a trainee at the jail for a couple of years and had guarded Kaiser Adolf's cell himself during his training to take over from his father Joe. He was 19. He was at a strange national military service pre-winter camp and high school musical thing. There was lots of singing. Very Yugoslavian. The rest of the family was living in and around the main house and property. Joe went completely insane, got extremely drunk, and shot and killed his old lady. He then decided family life wasn't his thing. Grabbed his guns, ammunition, and bottles of spirits, and went to hunt down his entire family. Joe shot and killed everyone in the extended family, traveling from one location to the next to murder every single one of them. Then checked the time, and decided he may as well go to work at the jail to start his shift. His one remaining son at National Service Camp ended up supplying a sperm in 1961 that was used to conceive the second oldest female who was pretending to be my older sister when I was born in 1972. Joe was her grandfather. Joe shot and killed, regardless how many shots it took, everyone he encountered in any way on his way to work. He then shot the guard who greeted him at the door to the underground subway jail dead at the door. When he slipped in past the body and closed the door, it slid sideways and blocked that exit. The door couldn't be opened after Joe went in. Joe clocked in as usual, turned on all the film cameras used as security-style surveillance cameras as usual, then headed for Kaiser Adolf's cell. He shot everyone dead on the way to the cell, and by the time he arrived, there was only him and Kaiser Adolf left in the building. Kaiser Adolf had been stuck there for over 15 years, still wearing the formal dinner clothes he wore the night he was abducted in December 1943, chained to the interior of the cell with a system of chains on pulleys. He could move around, but had to lug the chains with him if he did. Sadie Einstein was still spending most of the working week at the jail living in the makeshift apartment on the other side of the bars to Adolf. She had been for over 15 years as well. It was originally intended to be her spinster's digs for around 9 to 12 months. She did self-abort the inbred extortion plot herself in April 1944, so the extended use of the area was likely something she took in a responsibility for herself in some way. Sadie was away visiting her only daughter she had prior to World War II that day. Joe plonked himself down unsteadily on the guard's chair, slurring his words badly. He then abruptly offered Kaiser Adolf one opportunity to play a game called Gun Roulette, and started explaining the rules. Most people know it as Russian roulette. Joe asked Adolf to play, and then said that if he didn't say yes, he would just shoot him immediately. There was a quiet argument that followed. In the end, after being threatened with being shot dead immediately, Adolf said, well, that is a 1 in 6 chance of committing suicide for 3 turns, but you might shoot yourself in your 3. Okay. Joe had 2 guns and was ready to shoot Kaiser Adolf if he tried to find and fire the 1 bullet in the 6-chamber gun at him to make sure he wasn't going to try to do him harm. His other gun was resting on his knee, pointed at Kaiser Adolf, and ready to shoot. The game, not recommended here in any way, involved 1 bullet and 5 empty chambers in a 6-shot pistol. Pulling the barrel out, covering it with your hand, spinning it around, resetting it, cocking it, holding it up against your head pointed at your brain, and pulling the trigger. Anywhere you want, against the temple, under your chin. If the gun didn't go off, other person's turn. If it didn't go off in 6 turns, game over. If it did, the survivor gets to keep anything they want of the dead person's body, particularly the gun, and any valuables. A 1 in 6 chance of death, 3 turns each if it is 2 people. Joe prepared the game gun and slid it to Kaiser Adolf under the bars. Kaiser Adolf followed the instructions and started saying that he really didn't want to shoot himself. It turned into a sweaty, nervous, little back and forth argument that was almost polite. Joe threatened to just shoot Adolf dead anyway if he didn't take his turn. Kaiser Adolf gotta do it, pull the trigger, do it from Joe. Adolf verbally squirmed, and Joe just kept saying fucking do it. In the end, Joe watched as if suddenly fascinated when Kaiser Adolf held the gun under his chin and paused for a short time, then pulled the trigger and got a blank sounding click. Joe the Loon laughed very hard, cackling about how hilarious it was, rocking back and forwards with his head going from side to side, as if it was the funniest thing ever. The look on your face and other similar sentences. He stopped to catch his breath and said the funniest bit was when you said you didn't really want to shoot yourself. You've been stuck here for over 15 years, without a change of clothes or a bath, eating the same meal every day, chained to the wall, and you said you didn't really want to shoot yourself. Kaiser Adolf slid the gun to Joe under the bars, who stopped it with one of his boots with mirrors glued to them, still laughing hard. Joe let go of his safety gun pointed at Kaiser Adolf, obtained the roulette gun off the floor, put it down by his side, pulled the barrel out, hid it with his hand still chuckling, spun the barrel around, clicked the barrel in, cocked it, looked at Adolf, held the gun against his temple pointing slightly downwards, and shot himself through the head with his first turn. When he fell off the chair dead, he lurched, fell forward and sideways, landed, twitched for a few seconds, and stopped moving. There was brains and skull fragments, lots of blood. And a shiny set of governor's keys, to the chains, shackles, cell, everything, laid out slightly forwards from his body on the floor. Kaiser Adolf said, "Oh, no, that's disgusting," horrified. Then saw the shiny set of keys within easy reach of his hand through the bars. Kaiser Adolf thought, oh, he shot himself. And there's a set of keys on his uniform. They call it roulette because it can be like a croupier laying out winnings in a smooth here is your profit sweeping hand motion, apparently. Usually valuables, wallet, keys, identification, souvenirs, and keepsakes. Not that I want to sound like it is a viable game or justify it being played or anything. If at some point in the past it stopped being played forever, then that is well and good. Kaiser Adolf obtained the keys from the body, covered in blood, skull fragments, and brains, by using his enormous daily prison exercising muscles to pull the body to the bars, and then the keys off Joe's uniform. They were slippery and it was gruesome. He tried the keys in all the locks, one by one. They unlocked everything. He extricated himself from the chains completely and tried unlocking the cell door. The cell door, made to look like the Brandenburg Gate, slid open. Kaiser Adolf decided to grab the game gun and take it with him, with some ammunition, as Joe had said he could. He made his way carefully through the prison to attempt to get outside into the open air, which quickly became his sole focus once he unlocked himself. The dead bodies of everyone else in the building were strewn around where Joe had shot them on the way in. When he got as far as he could with the keys off the uniform, he had 2 guns and some ammunition with him. When he got to the exit door, there was blood seeping through the gap between the door and the door frame, and he could not get it open. Kaiser Adolf looked around for another way out. There were air vents and ducts, but the prison was booby-trapped in all those areas, with bare electric wires spread all over the interior like electric fencing. Adolf had 2-inch thick concrete shoes on though, and he had a good scientific knowledge of electricity. He knew the electricity would not flow through him and earth if he only touched one live wire at a time, and did not cross them over or touch them up against anything, as his concrete shoes would prevent the electricity from earthing through his feet. Theoretically he could grab them with his bare hands to remove them and it wouldn't electrocute him. He moved them carefully by hand, one wire at a time, one hand at a time. Shooting things that he did not have a key for was also a viable option. Kaiser Adolf climbed out of the building through the air vent ducts and came up out a grate, right in the middle of train lines. He felt an outdoor open-air breeze. The first natural outdoor cool breeze he had felt hit his body in 15.5 years.